And we're going to start tonight with the Pledge of Allegiance.
The Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
States of America,
and to the republic
for which it stands,
under
one
God,
God,
indivisible, with liberty and
justice for all.
Perfect. Awesome. Okay, so thank you again, everyone, for joining us tonight. Just a couple things before we get started. My name's Erica Kirkus. I'm the Volunteer Services Coordinator here at the VNA of Northwest Indiana. And I also oversee the We Honor Veterans program. So that's the program that is bringing you tonight's panel discussion. A couple of things before we get started. Thank you so much to our committee members who are putting this all together for us, to all of our panelists, and to our audience. Tonight, please do keep your mics muted, just so that we don't hear any background noise or anything else throughout, that our panelists have the floor to speak. And any questions that you have, please put them in the chat box, and we will get to those at the end. So right now, I would like to introduce to you VNA of Northwest Indiana's President and CEO, Bob Franco. He will be our host for the evening.
Thanks, Erica. Good evening, everybody. It's sure great to see so many people that have tuned in with us tonight. I wish we could do this in person. I'm sure in the very near future, we will be able to do these sorts of events again, all together and gathering and being together. I know today I did my little part of it all. I went and got my vaccination in Crown Point. It didn't hurt a bit. And I know that the state is rolling out its next phases about who and when can get vaccinated. So I'd encourage everybody to do your research, do your education, and follow up, and let's get this past us as soon as we can so we can all be together on events like this. I want to thank Erica for all of her hard work in putting this together, and our committee. There's a few of our staff on this call tonight, Gretchen and Erica and Melanie, James, and a few other people that are on our committee that do just a great job with our We Honor Veterans program. Probably what I'll do is that, like, before we get into a couple of things, I'll ask Erica to unmute real quick, and just to say a couple of words about our We Honor Veterans program. We are currently a We Honor Veterans program level 4, and we are striving for level 5, which will put us in some rare air of hospices around the country at being a level 5. And I think we're very close. Erica, can you just tell us just a little bit about the We Honor Veterans program and what we're striving for?
Yeah, absolutely. So the We Honor Veterans program is a partnership between the National Hospice and Palliative Care Organization and the VA. And it works to educate hospice professionals on veteran needs at the end of life. And it also honors veterans when they come onto hospice services. So that's a big piece of our program, is honoring veterans when they come onto hospice services. They get a certificate, a blanket made by volunteers, a card made by volunteers, a lapel pin, and a couple of other things. And we just go to the home. Usually it's our clinical staff goes to the house and just thanks the veteran for their service to our country. And so through, like Bob said, we are a level 4 partner right now, striving for our level 5 certification. We are super close to that goal. There is a long list of tasks you have to do to be level 5, and it's a big commitment to the community and veterans in your community. So one of those requirements is this evening. So we're really excited to do this. and to bring you some more information tonight.
Thanks, Erica. I think it's important to lay the groundwork a little bit. That wasn't on the script. Erica gave me this really tight script of what I was supposed to say, and I'm very famous for going off script. So sorry about that and putting Erica on the spot. But we're really proud of our We Honors Veterans program. We're really proud of the hard work that Erica has put into it to get us this far. And like I said, there's really a handful of hospices around the country that have achieved level 5. So we're really going to be thrilled to be one of the only ones in all of Northwest Indiana to have achieved level 5 of We Honor Veterans. It's really, really important to us as an organization that we fully recognize and honor the veterans who not only come through our services, but veterans in our region too. So this is one of the ways that we are working on doing that. The lower levels of this were really just sort of ceremonial, I guess is the best way to say it, is, just like recognizing veterans. Once we get up to level 4 and level 5, there's much more outreach work that we do where we really engage with veterans before they end up in our services. So it's just a terrific program. And I'm really, really happy that you're all here with us tonight to help us out with that because this is a really, really important part of our community, I think. So now I'll get back onto script, Erica. So my job tonight is just to moderate and keep the conversation moving, do a couple of introductions and ask some questions and really kind of engage our panel tonight. And not just our panel, everybody who's tuned in tonight. Is that the right word for Zoom? I don't know what the right word would be. Clicked in, tuned in, whatever that is. We're just glad that you're here with us tonight. So we have some panelists. We have some wonderful panelists that joined us tonight. Kevin Hochek is from the Indiana Vet Center. Jim Atkinson is from the Porter County VSO office. Don Gerard is a Marine Corps veteran, served in Vietnam. Thrilled to have Don with us tonight. And then Jamie LeBrun is an Army veteran who also happens to be one of our VNA staff. We are privileged and honored to have several veterans on staff with us here at the VNA. It's really a privilege to work alongside of them. And so we're really happy to have Jamie with us tonight too. So what I'll do is I'll ask each one of the panelists, I'll cue you to just give us a little bit of a bio about yourself and about your organization. Looks like Kevin is here and is ready to go first. So Kevin, if you want to unmute and tell us a little bit about the Indiana Vet Center.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Kevin Hochek, and I am the outreach worker at the Gary Area Vet Center, which is located in Crown Point, Indiana. Our physical address is 107 East 93rd Avenue, and it's just behind the Jiffy Lube on the southeast corner of Broadway and 93rd, if you're familiar with that area. So we're about a quarter of a mile down from the Adam Benjamin Jr. outpatient VA clinic. So vet centers have been around pretty much since 1979, I think is when they started by Vietnam veterans. And it was an outreach to peers to provide support, counseling, care. Back then it was, more of just like peer support. And now it has a clinical mental health purpose. So at the vet centers, we provide free and confidential readjustment counseling for all combat veterans and veterans who experience sexual trauma during their military service. That's our main area of service providing. We provide outpatient mental health care. So it's counseling, case management. It could be individual counseling, group counseling, at times marriage and family counseling. But as a part of the greater VA, vet centers, there's over 300 across the country. We have 80 plus mobile units that also deploy into communities where there's not a brick and mortar site. And so we partner with the greater VA, the mental health clinic at Adam Benjamin Jr. has full service mental health care. They have psychiatrists for prescribing medication if that's a need. And then programs like the Jesse Brown VA Hospital that has inpatient mental health care, or the Rush Road Home program that has a partnership with the VA for providing more structured, time limited outpatient intensive care. So there are a lot of options for receiving mental health care through the VA, also through some great community partners in the area. But we offer as our office the readjustment counseling that's focused around combat vets and veterans who experience military sexual trauma. We also pride ourselves on just being aware of veterans issues. The way our program started, we take a lot of pride in that. I'm an Army veteran as well. The majority of our staff, even though it's small, are veterans. 50% of our staff are combat veterans. And so if there's a need that a veteran comes in with, we will assist them where we can and refer to other organizations that specialize. So we don't directly deal with claims issues, but we refer to like the county veteran service officers, like Jim's office. We do have somebody that comes in once a week and tries to assist veterans with those claims, but they're through a outside organization, and we just make those services available. So you could refer pretty much any veteran our way if you're not sure what exactly it is that they're needing, but to receive our full services, it would be in that PTSD care and case management realm.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. That was really helpful. So as the outreach coordinator for the Gary Vet Center, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you end up into that position?
So I was familiar with the vet centers. I had a chance to work for another veteran service organization for a few years, kind of in a similar area, providing care and respite for combat veterans. And so through that organization, we worked in partnership with the vet centers, and I had kind of hoped to land a spot there someday. Thankfully, it worked out. I actually came over and started as an office manager, and then they saw the need for outreach and made a big push that all vet centers would have an outreach coordinator to get out in the community. More and more these days, it's meetings like this, but in a traditional setting, pretty much from the spring through the fall, we're out in the community attending events and just answering questions, making referrals. And if somebody's interested in our services, definitely contacting them directly. I meant to say earlier also with the current situation, we do still, our office is always open, but we are trying to handle a lot of the services via phone and because we're in the veterans health side of things, we have something called the VA Video Connect. So it's kind of like a Zoom call, but it's encrypted, where the information is a little bit safer, I guess, to be handling that type of treatment. So our counselors have been running a lot of individual and group meetings that way to keep providing the services, but also keep everybody safe. A lot of our clientele is still Vietnam veterans who have, unfortunately, pretty serious health conditions a lot of times because of their military service. And so we're just adjusting to make sure that they can still receive care, but also, keep everybody safe and not have as much traffic. There's a little doorbell we installed outside the building. So if you come up, there's a sign that says, this is our phone number, and you can give us a call, or you can ring the bells if it's working, and we'll come out and help in any way that we can.
Okay. Well, thanks, Kevin. And I think on behalf of the whole panel, I want to say thank you for your service and thank you for your continued commitment to serve. It sounds like you got
you're very welcome. It's an honor.
Yeah. It's our honor to have you with us and your continued commitment to serve. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Next, we have Jim Atkinson from the Porter County VSO office. I see Jim on here with us. So Jim, if you want to unmute your line and tell us a little bit about your organization and yourself.
Thank you, Bob. I want to thank Gretchen and the VNA committee for asking me to be part of this panel. And it's so important that we keep in touch with veterans and keep them informed. You asked for a little bit of a bio. I'll just try to be brief, but I'm married to my wife for 51 years, Janet, and I have 3 wonderful daughters. I have 7 great grandchildren. I enlisted in the Marine Corps in '66, dropping out of Purdue, served in Vietnam as a machine gunner and an interpreter interrogator for 13 months. I was on the Sheriff's Department as a patrol sergeant for a little over 7 years. My veterans involvement are part of 7 different veterans organizations, lifetime membership. I'm presently serve at the American Legion Post 94 as on the E-board and as their chaplain. I've been part of their honor color guard for 23 years, doing funerals. And I've been the Toys for Tots coordinator for 3 counties for 18 years. I'm currently the Marine Corps League Department or State Commandant, responsible for 25 detachments and 2,000 members. And I'm proud and honored to be served Porter County as their VSO since 2008. So that's a little bit about the bio. And our office is in 3 VSOs, Veteran Service Officers, Paulina Huffman, Joe Brufi, and myself. We work Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4:30, and we do have a satellite office in Portage that operates 4 days a week. So we have 1 part-time and 2 full-time employees, and we work out of the Porter County Administration Building there on Indiana Avenue. We're on the ground floor on the west end. We primarily, our duties involve and our time is pretty much directed toward helping veterans obtain the benefits that they've earned, like Kevin does, and also the family members that need information and help as to survivor and benefits and that. So we do disability claims. We go ahead and try to come in strong with a good disability, claim, so that we can avoid as many appeals as possible. We are involved with pension, non-service connected pension, claims for people that are disabled and need financial help. We also are involved with enrollment in healthcare and educational information that we share with veterans and their families. And surviving spouses, like Kevin mentioned, the 3 of us lose probably 1 veteran, that we represent each week, sometimes 2, and the majority of them actually are Vietnam veterans. So I just wanted to say that there's been, as of January 6th of this year, there's been 3 more presumptives added to the 14 presumptives for exposure to Agent Orange. And they are bladder cancer, hyperthyroidism, and Parkinson-like symptoms. So anybody out there listening that doesn't have that information, it's important to, if you have those conditions and you're boots on the ground, to give us a call. 465-3587 is our main line, and we'll go ahead and schedule an appointment. All of us handle 2 to 3 appointments a day, and we are pretty busy shuffling paperwork and involved with a lot of appeals at times. So we really are honored to be in a position to help so many veterans and their families, not only financially, but emotionally. And I just want to say that we really appreciate Kevin. We're good friends and we've known each other for a long time, but his commitment to his profession is outstanding. And we are so happy that we can refer veterans and their families to the Vet Center. That's something that doesn't happen at the Adam Benjamin, but Adam Benjamin is really a great healthcare facility, but it's nice to have the family involved with counseling too. And that's what the Vet Center does. So with that, I'll go ahead and answer questions and take questions if there are any. So,
where are you again?
Pardon?
Where are you again?
I'm at the Porter County Admin Building That's on 155 Indiana Avenue, room 103. Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4:30.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Thanks, Jim. That was really helpful. It was informational. We appreciate that. And again, on behalf of the panel, I want to say, I think we would all convey that we're glad you made it home.
Yeah.
I know many of your friends and colleagues and brothers did not. We're glad you did, and that you were able to come home and continue to serve, in your role is to protect and serve as a policeman, and then your service continuing and helping veterans. We're honored to have you with us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Next on the panel is Don Gerard, another Marine, who also served in Vietnam. So Don, if you want to turn off your mute and tell us a little bit about yourself and the organization that you represent.
Donald Gerard, I'm 71. Oh,
We got you.
okay, I wasn't sure. Okay, yeah, I joined the Marine Corps in 1968. I retired twice, once in 1990, and then I was asked to come back on active duty for Desert Storm. So I did another 25 months. Final retirement was in 93. After that, I was contacted by another retired EOD technician, and I went into that field, bomb disposal, for another 20 years, and I finally retired in 2015. I'm sorry. And since then, I have spent my time with my family here, trying to make up for some of the 40 plus years that I was away from my family and all. I am another Vietnam vet, and I was in country from January through December of 1969 as a grunt. That's about it.
All right. Well, again, on behalf of this whole panel and our community and our country, thank you for your service. I have to tell you, Don, you're sort of an idol to me, that you've retired 3 times.
Yeah.
I can't even seem to get my first retirement on the horizon yet. And that the fact that you've retired 3 times already, you're sort of an idol to me. So,
Thank you.
Don, I'd like to add a point that I'm in 5Ks and I get beat every time by 3 Marines. 2 of them my age. They beat me by 10 minutes or more. Then
wow.
they always make fun of me when I finish.
We won't do that tonight.
And there's sometimes as many as five Marines involved, who all of them beat me. Way to go, guys.
Well, Erica promised me there would be no running tonight. That's why I agreed to sit in on this
Thank
panel.
you.
So, yeah, thank goodness. Thank you, Don. Our last panelist to be introduced tonight is VNA's own Jamie LeBrun. Jamie is our IT specialist, who has worked with the VNA, gosh, now, what, 7, 8, 9 months, something like that, maybe 10 years. I don't know. Time flies when we're having fun. But Jamie actually lives in Houston, Texas, and works for the VNA here in Porter County. So through the miracle of Zoom and technology, we're able to tap into Jamie's immense talents and experiences and bring those to us here at the VNA. But we're also honored to have her as a veteran, as part of our family as well. So Jamie, if you want to talk a little bit about yourself.
Good evening, everybody.
You love to talk about yourself. I just know that.
Oh, I'm already like sweating a little bit just thinking about this. So good evening, everybody. First, thank everybody for giving us the opportunity to speak. Erica, just everything that you've done for the program. Gretchen, everybody, it's amazing. One of the reasons that I came to the VNA was for this program alone. I've never been able to be a part of a healthcare agency that cared so much about veterans. So it's a complete honor. I unfortunately don't have as decorated military past as everybody else. So mine, I got injured, unfortunately, and had to get out a little bit early. But when I did serve, I served for about 1.5 years, and I was 97 Bravo in the Army. So in civilian terms, that's a spy for the United States. It's sounds way cooler than some of the stuff that we got to do. But I will say that my discharge was very different experience, and I've had the opportunity to learn more about the positive sides through Erica and the program that's here with the VNA. I actually just stumbled upon technology and realized I was really good at it. So nothing that I did in the military is what I'm doing today, but I do feel like I'm getting the opportunity to help veterans with this program, with Bob continuing to let it be okay that I'm in Texas half the time to service the VNA. And again, just working with everybody. So that's really what I wanted to give back, was realizing that I couldn't really do much with 97 Bravo short of try to be James Bond, and that didn't seem very fun. So I'm just taking technology and seeing what I can do with healthcare to really push it forward and really work with the VNA and get us to where we want to be, which is, above and beyond. So our technology matches the amazing staff that we have. And again, just want to thank everybody for giving me the opportunity to speak and be on the panel. I really appreciate it.
And as we've said to all the other panelists, Jamie, on behalf of the panelists and everybody that's joined us in our community, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
So let's move into some questions. Erica was kind enough to seed me with some questions here. So again, I'll promise to stay on script with these. I might have a couple of questions of my own as we go along. A couple of things have already popped up. So let's start with Kevin. Kevin, you talked a little bit in your introduction about the vet center, but if you could just provide just a little bit more clarity to some of us who aren't as experienced with post-discharge programs and services for veterans, could you explain just a little bit more for us civilians, a little bit more about like what a vet center really is and what it does?
Sure. So a lot of times with veterans, the conversation is about the VA, and that's a very big general term, which the Department of Veterans Affairs is the VA. However, there's three main branches to the VA. So you have the Veterans Health Administration, the Veterans Benefits Administration, and the National Cemetery Administration. So benefits is who covers down on like when Jim helps somebody with a claim and they are applying for some sort of either service-connected disability benefit, the VA home loan program, the GI Bill. That all falls under the Veteran Benefits Administration in the VA. The national cemeteries are, our local would be the Abraham Lincoln Cemetery near Joliet, Illinois. Arlington National Cemetery would be a very familiar one to most people, but that part of the VA manages all of those facilities and the memorial services and everything like that. And then inside the health department, the Veterans Health Administration, you have hospitals. So in our local area, many veterans fall under the Jesse Brown VA hospital healthcare system. And that hospital maintains also what they call community-based outpatient clinics. So that would be something like the Adam Benjamin Jr. or ABJ clinic that's in Crown Point. They also cover Chicago Heights, Auburn Gresham, several in the area. So in the hospital, you've got everything, the emergency room, the inpatient stays, the surgeries, all of it. In the community-based outpatient clinics, what you have are more like primary care doctors, some specialty clinics like audiology for hearing aids or hearing tests, optometry. Crown Point has actually even a dental office. It's a larger community-based outpatient clinic. And then under that health side, you also have the vet centers. And so our offices are always separate from one of those medical clinics because we have professional mental health counselors as our primary care providers. And like I said, our services are free, so there's no billing, there's no department for that. We get a lot of calls and questions on those matters, but we have to refer to the other side of things. So the majority of our service providers are licensed clinical social workers who are specifically trained in trauma-focused therapies and modalities to assist veterans in working through traumatic events. And as our name implies, the vet centers are also known as the readjustment counseling service. Our goal is to help veterans readjust and hopefully get to a place of thriving in their life following their military experiences. So I may have briefly touched on it before, but a lot of that is in individual counseling sessions or group therapy, and sometimes family counseling. Our client is always the veteran, and so their records are separate. You know, in working with the VA and coordinating care and providing the best services that we can to veterans, we can communicate with other providers that the veteran may have at the medical side of the VA. But our materials are separate and distinct. Nobody can see their records. They would have to specifically release them for a purpose of their choosing. So that's something that I like to speak with younger veterans about who are still working, or we do have veterans who are still serving. You know, they've been deployed and they're in a National Guard or Reserve unit and they'd like to finish their career, but they're just struggling with some of the things that happened, you know, during their previous deployments or other service times. You know, a lot of younger veterans get out and they get into, you know, public service, working with a police department or a prison or a fire department or something. And part of what I like to do is, in any way I can, try and decrease the stigma of mental health care. Because if you can go somewhere, you don't have to pay anything, your insurance isn't even going to know about it, but you get a chance to speak about your experiences and try and find ways to positive, in a way, adjust, you know, how you interact with those experiences. That's what we want to do and be there for. Unfortunately, a lot of times what we see is people will, veterans are driven. They're hard workers, they're skill oriented, they're results oriented, and they will serve in the military for whatever length of time their contract was. They'll get out, they'll work a job, you know, retire from the mill and then come back on the mill as a contractor and work another 20 years or whatever. Once everything settles down and they're finally done, you know, providing for their family and creating a work legacy, what often happens is that quiet time creates a space where all those memories start coming back up. And now it's all these years later, but it might be helpful to do something with that, you know, and find a way to, you know, maybe share with their families if they feel like it, or just engage it themselves in a different way that's not, you know, being stuck in something that happened that they don't like remembering or don't like bringing up. So that's kind of where we fall in.
Okay. Let me ask you one follow-up question to that.
Mhm.
You know, prior to, I've been with the VNA now for a couple of years, but prior to that, for about the last 30 years, I worked in mental health and substance abuse and did some work in primary care that was integrated with behavioral health. In fact, one of the models that we worked under for the last 10 years was integrating behavioral health and primary care, was really using the VA system that pioneered that model of the integration of behavioral health and primary care. So that was a model that I'm very familiar with and understand. You mentioned stigma of mental health, and I know that's a real thing. It's the biggest challenge that mental health has today. Is it more of a stigma for veterans?
I can't speak for all veterans, but I do know that, I would say it seems to be,
Mhm.
unfortunately, we lose veterans all kind of ways, seems like there's been a lot of talking points about mental health care more recently, or homelessness or things like that. Um, but some of the skills that you learned in the military of, rub some dirt on it and drive on, which can get you through some really challenging situations. And the military is great at training. That's what they put out is training and muscle memory and things like that. And so it's I don't know if it's as much of the stigma as it is almost like a reprogramming of like, it's okay for me to ask for help. Not necessarily that I'm going to be labeled some, in normal culture terms like the crazy veteran or something like that. Obviously that's not the clinical language, but nobody wants to have that, I don't think, as the way they're viewed. So it's in my opinion more of just like looking at it a different way and taking the strengths that you have and that you've learned and that you've overcome situations in life and just shifting it to another lane that's okay. There's a reason I'm hurting. It makes sense, even though you can't see it and I can't see it because I'm not bleeding out or something like that. Using that strength to then just ask for some help, because there are a lot of veterans who've been through those type of experiences, and it doesn't have to define them.
Sure.
It's a part of their story. It's a chapter in their personal book of life or whatever. But yeah, it's just helping them see it in that different way, as opposed to I'm going to be labeled, or we hear all the time, well, they're going to come for my guns, and how am I going to protect myself, or something like that. And just clarifying where those things are not true. You can seek help and it's not going to put you or your family in jeopardy. It doesn't need to put your career in jeopardy. Matter of fact, if you deal with it in a way that's productive, you're going to be even better on the other side of it, even stronger, and so just finding what that level of care is for each veteran, and if it's in our lane, we help them. If it's something, that's at one time or another, they might need a little bit more intensive treatment, we make those referrals and then they come back. It's a lot of people would like to think that all healthcare is a straight line towards success. And especially with mental health care, that's not really the case. You go through times where things are a lot better and times where things may be challenging, and especially in our lane, post-traumatic stress disorder, stress is kind of the key word there. So you have good stress in life, you have challenging stress in life, you have frustrating stress in life, but if you have PTSD, any of those stresses can bring about symptoms. And so helping people to recognize that, see that, try and plan for it, when it does come up, deal with it in a healthier way. That's what we're working towards.
Thank you. Yeah, that's really helpful. I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm going to ask this one to, I guess, Jim or Don, for either one of you. When you discharged from the services, how much knowledge were you given of veteran services once you left active duty?
Bob, this is Jim. I'd like to comment on that. We weren't given any kind of heads up about any kind of benefits, or that we should go ahead and look at our medical records or try to go ahead and obtain them at some point. So there was nothing there. Matter of fact, my personal experience, and I think it's pretty commonplace. I left Vietnam, and 2 days later, flying over the Pacific, we landed at El Toro Air Base in California. We were met there in the hangar as soon as we arrived by a captain saying, "Gentlemen, welcome home. I suggest you take your uniforms off and fly civilian while you go to the airport because of the social climate." So that was our reentry orientation. That was it. And for all of my life, I've felt that with the minds and the intelligence and the experience that our military and our cabinet people in Washington, D.C. have collectively, why couldn't they go ahead and reintroduce us and give us time to adjust, back into, America and our own community. So that's my experience. Then I'd like to make a comment just as a service officer on what Kevin said a little bit about PTSD. And I want to go ahead and let veterans know that are listening that the Brady Bill, which takes firearms or the ability to purchase firearms and possess them, actually doesn't really kick in until you're 70% or 100%, rated according to the VA. And the PTSD comes under Diagnostic Code 9411, which includes anxiety disorder, depressive disorder, bipolar, schizophrenia, and maybe one other, but they're all the same. So regardless whether it's PTSD or it's like depressive order, the compensation and the treatment, of course, is going to be somewhat different, but it's all the same. So I just want to tell veterans out there that if you want to be in law enforcement or on security, or you want to possess a firearm, or purchase a firearm, you can be 50% rated, for a mental illness or condition and not affect anything in your life. So.
Okay, good to know. Yeah, good to know. Thank you. Don, was that a similar experience for you when you left Vietnam? And then kind of a follow-up question to that, was it different when you came home from Desert Storm?
Well, I never made it to Desert Storm. I was brought back on active duty, but I was kept in the United States because we were expecting a lot of our EOD technicians to be hurt, and of course, nobody expected the war to be that fast and over with. But when I came back to Vietnam, I had the same experience that James had. My only difference was that I didn't come back to the civilian world. 30 days after I came back, I was at Marine Barracks at Great Lakes, Illinois up here. And I've continued on active duty all the way through. One of the problems we did have, though, is I was on what we call Run Platoon. I was a prisoner chaser for the whole 9th Naval District. We picked up UA Marines, during the Vietnam area, especially towards the end there, with all the hate and discontent for the military. We were baby killers and everything else, according to everybody out here. We had to wear civilian clothing to travel to pick up these prisoners from all the different county jails throughout the whole district. We had 15 states we covered. We had times where some of our other American citizens tried to take the prisoners away from us when they saw us in uniform. That was the reason we went to civilian clothes, so we could kind of be in with the crowd and all that. Even though with our short hair that we had, it was very easy to see. Police in O'Hare did help us one time coming through, and people decided they were going to take them, and the police stepped in and made us, helped us get through. As far as what you asked about what we were given for reorientated back and all that, even after I retired, there was nothing offered back in 90 and 93. The two places I retired out of Hawaii originally, and then when I came back, I retired out of Yuma. There was a little bit of wording when I left in 93 about you could look into some, but there was really nothing given out that way. It took a long time to readjust to come from the military wearing a uniform to being out in the civilian community, though. I don't think I've ever really totally readjusted myself, and I've been retired for over 20 years now. I guess it's something that was inbred and all that. And then after I did retire, I worked for 20 plus years doing UXO work with most of the guys were retired EOD technicians from all different branches of service. We go to the same school. So we were on our own little community, almost like being on active duty that way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Jamie, when you're the most recent veteran who's discharged from the service on the panel tonight, was your experience any different than what you heard from Jim and Don?
Unfortunately, no. Given my MOS and the level of security clearance that I had, they were more worried about, are you going to breach information, privileged information, than what you did whenever you got out of the last psych eval. So it was clearly not much has changed. Unfortunately, maybe in some MOSs it's a little different, but for me, because I had climbed pretty high and I had gotten an interim top secret security clearance, which was a little bit unheard of at that time. It really was, understand that you're bound to this information, where it was really more of a scare tactic than it was anything else. So, and I wasn't given much of anything. Like I said, it's been such a privilege to work with this group, and I've learned more at 42 and the privileges that we have as veterans than I ever did at 21, 22. So it's unfortunate. And that more veterans and even people that I speak to, some of 97 Bravo does not have a lot of people that went into it. It's actually been a discontinued MOS for the Army. They categorized it differently, and they've had the same experience as I did. And even some of the military police that I stayed in contact with also did, very similar experience based off of where they were stationed. So again, unfortunate, but you learn more just kind of digging on your own and who you run across. If you get with a good agency or, whatever the case may be, than you do being helped by the military.
Let me, for any of the panelists, if there was one thing that you could go tell our government that it should do upon discharge, as active service people are entering back into civilian life, what if you could just say, if you only had the opportunity to tell them there's one thing that you have to do, what would that be?
Bob, can I answer that question? This is Jim.
Please.
The one thing that I would I'd lobby for with our legislative representatives and that in Congress, but I don't understand why our government can't give automatic health care to every veteran that is discharged. I think that is the greatest thing that this country could do for veterans, is automatically enroll them in VA healthcare. VA healthcare has improved so much, and I'm so proud of the Adam Benjamin Clinic and that and the work that they do there. But for the life of me, I think it actually would save money. It would save, a lot of insurance, claims, and a lot of outside, necessity for, going other places for healthcare. But I don't understand why every veteran doesn't have access to healthcare.
It's inconceivable.
Yeah.
Don, Jamie, Kevin, do you
Right.
have any, like, if there was one thing, what would that be?
I'm actually blanking right now on the name of the program, but the VA is now proactively reaching out to veterans to contact them as they transition. I know when I got out, they did offer some informational materials, but as best as you can do in a briefing where somebody knows as soon as they check the box, they get to go home and spend time with their family. Even what they offer is very hard to digest and know what to do with at any time in the future. So I was just encouraged recently to see an article through the VA news feed talking about how they're actually taking the initiative to call veterans, reach out to them, ask them questions at, checkpoint times after they've already gotten out of the service. So that's, I don't know how broad it is yet, but I think it's definitely a step in the right direction of making sure that no veteran gets lost in the mix of returning home, or, especially if you leave a military installation and wind up across the country somewhere else, you could feel kind of isolated. And so doing that, I think, is going to be hopefully a big step in helping people.
Okay. Thanks, Kevin. Don or Jamie?
I would just second what James and Kevin were talking about. I mean, that's really the biggest thing. It's very overwhelming to, look at that information if they give you something. I mean, it's overwhelming as us as even, healthcare providers. Sometimes the documents don't make any sense. So again, just seconding what James and Kevin said.
Okay. All right, thanks. Don, I think it was you that mentioned, you talked about, your 40 some years in the service, and now you're making up time with family. Am I right? It was you that was mentioning that, that you're making up time with your family. And this is for any of you too. Were veteran services offered only for veterans, or are they offered for family support as well? Because I think that, we understand certainly in hospice that the patient is obviously very important, but we're dealing with a whole family dynamic. And I think many times with veterans, you're dealing with a whole family dynamic there too. And I think Don started to allude to that a little bit. So can any of you share any kinds of experiences that you've had? What sort of family services are available?
Yes.
I've never had any family services that were available. Of course, I'm never going looking for them either. And I think that happens to a lot of the servicemen coming back in. You've become self-sufficient over the years, and you don't think that you need anything. It's a hard adjustment to come back to actually open up, to speak, to let people know. As a combat veteran, as James can tell you, and anybody else, you've seen things and you've gone through things you don't talk about to hardly anybody. It takes many, many years. It's taken me over 30 years before I would even talk to anybody about what I saw and did while I was on active duty. And the last couple of years, I've opened up a little bit. I'm not sure. I mean, Kevin's area over there would probably be the best thing in the world for any veteran coming back, especially a combat veteran. That they should be referred to a vet center upon discharge, whether it's a 4-year enlistment or a 20, 30-year enlistment. They get professional people to talk to them and all that.
Okay, thanks, Don. Jim, Jamie, or Kevin?
I have an example, and that is that first, with 31 years in the service, we have our insurance, both wife and I, but I also would meet with a guy wanting to retire at 10 years, and I would recommend that they go 20 so that they have their insurance when they get out. And I would refer it quite often to those young men that stick around for 20, stick around for 21, because your insurance will go through with you.
Yeah.
That's good advice.
And I would just say, as far as VA specific services for family members, there are some that exist, but they're few and far between. Even if somebody didn't retire from the military, if they wound up being 100% service connected disabled, There's a program called Champ VA, which would offer health care. There also are some benefits through the VA caregiver program to assist family members who are caring for a veteran loved one who has requirements of assistance with activities of daily living. There are some benefits for family members when it comes to the National Cemetery Administration and being able to have a spot if the veteran qualified for burial in the National Cemetery, their family member, spouse, or if a minor child passed away, they would be eligible. So there are a few services out there, but in whole, it's not really where the VA wouldn't necessarily be where a spouse would go for the first option of any type of service. And just on that, I would say, if you're a veteran or a family member, you have a friend who's a veteran, you know, the programs get their hands tied by how the representatives write the bills. So certain things like, you know, you have to, on the federal level, to be defined as a veteran, you have to have at least 180 continuous days of active duty, not for training. And so, you know, the state of Indiana and the Indiana Department of Veterans Affairs started an initiative called the Hoosier Veteran, you know, recognition, saying essentially, if you raised your hand, in our mind, you're a veteran, which I think a lot of people would agree with. It's just, unfortunately, when you get into the nitty gritty of applying for different programs through the VA, you have to meet the definitions that are spelled out as the policies are written. And you really have to read the sub-qualifiers. If it says and versus or, you know, if it's and, you have to meet all checkpoints of that program. And so just all of the most current information on any program through the VA is available on va.gov. They've redone the page to make it a little bit easier to understand what the eligibility is, what the application is. Usually there's a different form for everything that you are looking into, and just making sure that, you know, it fits for that particular person.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. We're closing in on 8 o'clock here, and we want to be respectful of everybody's time, especially our panelists who gave up some time to join us and some preparation time to be a part of this. So we thank you for that. We have one of our terrific volunteers, Maggie, who's been monitoring the chat box to see if any questions have come up. And Maggie, it looks like there's at least one question there from Dorothy. Do you want to?
I got to unmute here. Sorry, Bob. Let me go back to the questions. I saw it pop up.
I have it right here, Maggie.
Oh, there we go.
There you go.
If a veteran has passed away, can any of the services represented tonight assist the families with unraveling red tape for survivors' benefits?
Bob, if I could answer that.
Sure.
There's a program that's called Dependency and Identity Compensation. A spouse could come in and file a claim for survivors' benefits. The compensation that the person is eligible for, if the death certificate shows that it was a major contributing factor or one of the 3 major contributing factors of death, then service-connected passing would kick in, and that's DIC. The award there is $1,357 per month for the rest of their life. And all VA money, if people don't know, is tax-free. Yeah, there's no tax liability whatsoever with it. So in actuality, it is exactly 25 to 30% higher, you know, in take home. But there's also like Kevin was saying, if a veteran is 100% permanent and total, it has to be P&T, CHAMPA, which is called civilian healthcare through the VA, kicks in, and then that spouse can have access to VA healthcare, just like the veteran does. Okay, so those are a couple of examples, but and then there's a lot of things we can help with burial and funeral. There's a $2,000 award to surviving spouses for a veteran's passing, if it was service connected, to help with burial and cremation and that. So there are a handful of things that family members and spouses can get help with.
Okay, thanks, Jim.
Jim, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Are the area funeral homes, I know when I lost my husband, it was not service related, but he was a veteran. And our local funeral home here was very involved, obviously, in the process. And are they aware of these programs, and can they talk to the families or surviving spouse about how to go about claiming those benefits?
That is a great question. We're involved with all three of major funeral directors and homes in the Valparaiso area and Portage and Chesterton, of course. But to answer that, I also am in touch with the coroner's office through the county administration building there, and we've asked them if, and we also process all death certificates that are veterans related through our office. And that's for eligibility for a $100 stipend. Every veteran that dies in Porter County, the commissioners will authorize a $100 stipend to the spouse. So once we see that, and we see on the death certificate that maybe it's, diabetes or renal failure or a heart condition or prostate cancer, then we could go ahead and call that person and say, would you like to make an appointment? Maybe your husband, passed from a service-connected illness, and there is a benefit to you. So we try to get information out to the funeral directors. I think I should do a little better job with that and reinforce that every year. Just like we'd like to get to to nursing homes and assisted living facilities in Porter County, and let them know that there is a pension programs out there to financially help. So we need to outreach probably a little bit more. We did in the past, but I think we need to go ahead and pick that up again to help people out there with more information. So.
Okay. Thanks for following up with that, and thanks for the follow-up question there, Maggie. We appreciate it. So at this point, let me just say thank you for allowing me to be a part of this tonight, kind of facilitating the conversation. I want to thank Jim. I want to thank Don. I want to thank Kevin. I want to thank Jamie for serving on the panel. And with that, I will turn it back over to Erica for closing remarks. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Bob, for moderating tonight. You had some great questions, and I'm really appreciative of your time too. Again, thank you to all of our panelists for sharing your stories and your backgrounds with us. This was a really great discussion, and I'm very honored to be a part of it, of the program as a whole, and to have heard your stories tonight. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I just want to say, if you are looking for additional information, there is the Veteran Resource Guide, and it's probably backwards, right? But if you're looking for anything like this, we can get you copies of this. Or if you have questions or need anything from any of our panelists, if you're interested in more information about We Honor Veterans or anything that we do, you can send us an email. And our email is veterans@vnanwi.org. And we will be glad to help you there. And if nobody else has any other questions, that will conclude the panel discussion for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.